Kaminsky Chassis Fabrication, or K-Fab. Today I'm working on a conversion of a cart that I use for carting around C10 cabs to hold these bedsides. Not just to hold the bedsides so I can transport it, but to actually hold the bedsides so I can paint them inside and out, both sides, without any sort of obstructions in the way, so I can really get a nice good flow coat on the clear and not have any sort of overspray drying in different areas at different times and having to paint the inside of the panel and then flipping it over and painting the outside of the panel. So it'll be all done in one shot. And basically this cart is going to hold the bed sides a little narrower than with the bulkhead, the rear bulkhead and the front bulkhead in. As you can see, I already have the bulkhead over there in the corner for the front. That's already been taken off. And the rear will get taken off, as well as the raised bed floor supports that are across there in the center. Okay, so normally the cab cart has these, which I made, to go inside of this here. This is a 1 3/4 piece of tubing here, 1 3/4 OD 095 wall, and this is 1.5 095 wall. Actually, this looks like 120 wall. This is heavier stuff. Doesn't matter. I put a big body washer here, and then underneath there's a 5/8 fine threaded nut basically tacked on the back side of this plate. So these are actually hood pins for race cars, and they just drop in this hole, and that's the rear cab support. It sits inside of the hole for the body mounting hole, and then this is the front. So it's much shorter because it's lower, and that's how it works for cabs. It just sits on the 4 mounting points as it would on the normal frame setup. So basically what I've been doing is I built with using the same 1.5 tubing to sit inside of here, comes up, and then there's an arm that's welded from that going up to the front corner of the bedside, and then there's a support that goes up and keeps the bed from rotating this direction. And then in the back, it's just a pin going from here back to the back mount in the back there. So super simple. All right, so one of my favorite things in the shop is this cold cut saw. It uses a metal tooth blade. On this one, I believe it's just it's a Diablo blade that is attached to the skill saw here. It spins at a much slower RPM than the regular chop saws with the abrasive wheels, and it cuts so clean and so smooth with very, very low sparks. And the cut is actually cold. That's why it's a cold cut saw. So after you make the cut, you can touch it when you're done with it, and it ends up speeding the process along. It's really accurate. It cuts real nice 90-degree plunge cuts, perpendicular to the ground, because when you're cutting, you don't really have to add much force to it, so the blade itself isn't deflecting like it can in an abrasive chop saw, because they take a while. Plus they're really dusty and nasty. This thing just makes clean chips. It's definitely super nice. I ended up using a stand from, it's actually a Ryobi stand for holding a regular miter saw. But I use this because it has a decent enough capacity that I could put a big piece of like 4x3 tubing 125 wall on it and not have an issue with any it falling over basically. And then I added and used this extra roller here so I can hold a really long, full length piece of a full stick of tubing. So because they come in anywhere from 20 to 24 feet, so you got to have a long surface to hold it, especially if you're only cutting a couple inches off the end. It's a little unruly, but nothing worse than cutting a piece of a stick of tubing right down the middle so it can store it easier, and then you end up wasting a lot of the ends because maybe you need a longer piece of tubing or whatever. It's just nice to cut off the end as you need it instead of splitting it in two to manage holding it a little bit. All right, so here are the supports. This is the rear support. Those two with the extra arms are the front supports. I'll show you how they work. That ended up turning up pretty decent. I just quick TIG welded them. I tacked them with the TIG welder in place inside of here because the bodywork's all been done and I didn't want any slag flying around from MIG welding. And then I just decided, seeing I had the TIG all set up, that I just finished TIG welding them out. So. that I have it all mounted up. It ended up going out pretty well. The time lapse I had set up before, my battery died halfway through it, so we didn't get to see the whole thing get put together. But now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to drill some holes where the two tubes are sitting inside each other to mount these little retaining pins, basically to just make sure that if I'm driving down the road, because this is going to go on the back of a trailer to where I'm painting, and in case any bumps or as I'm moving or if I lift on it on accident, I don't want the tube coming out and then have to fight to try to get back together. So I'm just gonna do this just for security's sake and, you know, just in case. Thanks for watching. Be sure to head to KaminskyChassisFab.com for all of our C10 parts and products, including tubular drop spindles. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. We'll try to upload videos weekly at minimum and show you what we're working on in the shop. Thanks. Take it easy.